we're back. It's the Canadian Bowler Podcast. We got the whole gang here today. Mike, Daryl, myself. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
Just good. That's it. Guys, I'm back. You're supposed to be excited.
I'm excited.
Yeah, the Golden Boy's back. We gotta be a little more amped up.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying.
How are you, Luke?
How am I? I'm
Yes.
spectacular. Alrighty, before
Nothing
we
like
get
an
started,
awkward.
nothing like an awkward Canadian bowler start. All right, let's get started, guys. We're here. We're back. If you haven't already, you got to hit that like, subscribe, comment, share. Hit that little notification bell so you can see every time that we go live in case you missed Daryl's post on Facebook. Every subscriber matters. We're well on our way to our goal at this point. We're up to 849 subscribers as we start today. If you haven't subscribed, which we know 95% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed, it'd be wonderful. I'm trying to reach that goal of 1,000 by the end of the year. We'll see if we can get there. If you're unavailable to watch the rest of the show today, don't forget we're available on all major podcast platforms. So we're out there. That gets posted within a week or so of the show, and always the show is posted on YouTube right after we're done today. So that's another way to watch it. All right. I want to start off with something that we didn't talk about before the show, fellers. And I want to talk about the Canadian bowler and people that we're looking to add to the show and the team because we got our first job application.
Yeah, so we did. Believe it or not. Just randomly, I guess because we're signed up as a business, we're a Canadian Bowler group. We got an application to be a host, which was really weird to get, but who knows in the future?
Yeah, unfortunately for our viewers, I know this is a well-paying job and everybody wants it, but we are not actually hiring at the moment. I'm sure there is thoughts of our team expanding at some point, but unfortunately we're not ready for that. But we thought I'd share that little funny story before we start.
That was good. That made me laugh when I saw it come in. I was like, really? Like somebody wants to hop on this wild hype train?
No kidding.
Well, and when you told me about it, I almost didn't believe you, and then you ended up telling me more about it, and it didn't even come from a lawn bowler too. So that was the part that kind of took me off guard. As I thought, okay, if it's another lawn bowler who we're probably going to be familiar with who they are, and then I looked at the application and I was like, oh no, not a lawn bowler. So definitely a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, at least we're getting out there. At least people are seeing us. Speaking of that, I was really hoping we'd tick over to 850 subscribers. We're at 849, but that goal of 1,000 by the end of the year is looking really within reach now, I think.
Yeah, we're getting really close. I mean, obviously it was a pretty steep goal when we announced it, but I mean, what's the point of not shooting for the stars, I suppose. We're right on the cusp at this point. Obviously your technical difficulty series gave us a little boost in that department. And I know you guys have some big news coming for that series, so if you guys want to share that'd be great.
Oh yeah. So everybody be prepared for this Wednesday. We'll be dropping the second video in that delivery series, which is about the stance and I guess more importantly, the whole setup. So everything that leads you to getting on that mat, setting yourself up for success just before you're actually going to be able to deliver that bowl. So really excited to have that drop on Wednesday. And then hopefully within the next couple weeks after that, we'll have the third and final installment in that series on technical difficulties.
Wonderful. Hopefully we get some more people helped out with the delivery stuff. I know how far that can go for any bowler, especially newer bowlers. So we appreciate you doing that, Daryl, and I'm sure so does everybody else.
Yeah, just a little bit on that. We've got some great comments. People are really liking the video. The feedback has been phenomenal, which we really like. A lot of the videos we put out there, we'll get a comment here or there, but we're getting some feedback. We're getting some comments. Keep those comments coming in. Let us know if it helps, how it helped, what you liked, what you didn't like, and more importantly, what do you want to see next? We're doing this delivery series, but really, what else do you want to see? What do you want us to talk about and give you tips on?
Yeah, no, Daryl hit it on the head there. We love the comments. We love the engagement. Couple of the comments, we've gotten other ideas for different videos that probably I'm going to be spearheading. So we're going to get a couple different viewpoints, different topics coming out here probably within the next few months. So definitely keep your eyes peeled because there's going to be quite a bit of different content coming out over the next little while.
Well, since we got past that part so easily, we did so great. What do we have coming up in the next year that we want to talk about, Daryl? The Canadian Championships and issues with that and hosting and everything else. Why don't you get me started on that?
So for those that don't know, Bowls Canada put out a call for bids to host the Canadian Championships for 2022. So, shoot us off another year, and the Canadian Championships will hopefully be going on. Everything will be back to whatever the normal will be. We'll be able to compete. We'll be able to get to the Canadians, but it looks like people are not jumping on board to really want to host the Canadians and be part of that whole process. So I wanted to talk about it, and if you haven't seen the article, the link is in the description below. Check it out. If your club is interested, always contact Bowls Canada to learn more about it and to get the ball rolling. But I kind of wanted to shoot the question out there, and we probably have some more questions about it, but why don't clubs want to host the Canadians?
I think I want you to take this one away, Mike. You've been to the most Canadian Championships out of all of us. You've been to all of them except for mixed pairs and seniors, I'm assuming.
Well, I've seen both of them because they've been hosted in Saskatchewan in my lifetime. So
okay, well, why do you think that nobody wants to host these?
Well, I think the main reason they're going to struggle to get hosts is it's kind of the same clubs over and over again that have to host. Example, Saskatchewan, in my 20 or so years that I've been around Bulls, it's only the two clubs that have ever hosted. So Regina, having the Fort Green facility, we've hosted a few different events, but Saskatoon, Nutana has also hosted mixed pairs, seniors, and the juniors. So it's one of those things where a club can really only host an event ever so often because of, I think it's volunteer burnout. Because when you have your volunteers, you only have, if I'm going to ballpark it, maybe 15, 20 volunteers at a club, and they're the consistent people who come out all the time. And if you're hosting an event like a mixed pairs nationals, even, you have to have probably 12 of those 15 volunteers coming out every single day for an entire week. And then the lead up to the event involves probably months and months of planning, like a meeting probably every month or two, multiple hours. Like, there's a lot of investment that you have to do hour-wise from volunteers. And so it's hard to get people to be interested and wanting to volunteer for something like that over and over again. And I think that's really the big problem is if you look at the events that have been hosted probably over the last 10 years, you're probably seeing the same clubs pop up over and over again, even though it's going to an entire province as a whole. So it's one of those things where I think you have to really encourage kind of one of those up-and-coming clubs or a club that maybe is thinking about it but just doesn't pull the trigger on it per se, to kind of push towards it, give it a shot, because it is a good opportunity and it is a good way for your club to make some money. Like, it's a lot of time commitment, but if you do host the nationals, like I know from when Regina hosted nationals 2 years ago, you do make quite a bit of money off of your concessions. If you get a liquor license, Bulls Canada gives you money for obviously rental of the facility. So kind of the combo of everything, the club does make a lot of money, and the members who do volunteer, they do enjoy it once it's actually happening, the event, because they get to see high level bowling, they get to see all the players from all across Canada, sort of get that atmosphere. So I don't know, it's a bit of a tough conundrum there where you get that problem of the same clubs and kind of that burnout, I guess. What do you guys think?
I guess, in my opinion, I think one of the biggest problems is just being able to have clubs that are large enough to facilitate an event like the Canadians. Because, like you said, obviously it works so well in Regina because of the Four Green facility. I've never been there, but I can only imagine the clubhouse can't be super tiny, so it's got some room for things to happen there. I think that has a lot to do with it. Obviously, yeah, time, money, commitment, everything else as well. I don't think the Canadian Championships can necessarily go anywhere, because I think if they disappear, then I think it's going to kind of destroy the sport here in Canada anyways. But do you guys think there's anything that they could possibly change to make more clubs be able to host, or make more clubs be interested in hosting? Or does it have to be the three green facilities that are few and far between, or splitting it up around multiple clubs? Like, how do you make it work?
I think now Heritage, my club, has hosted half of a Canadians twice. So we how was it, 2005? It's a long time ago. We hosted one where we split it with Woodstock, so it was 2 greens and 2 greens. And that was the old format with a ton of stuff going on. And then most recently, we did the last Canadian singles, and Burlington did the pairs and the fours. The new format actually helps a little bit with being able to split it, because you don't need a large facility. You need 2 greens to do it properly, but you don't need a 3 or 4 green facility, which in the past has probably been a pretty big prerequisite of being able to do it. I think it just, I don't think there's going to be any purpose in making it an event that can go onto a 1 green facility. I think you need it large enough and exciting enough that it's got to be a big one. It's got to be something at least 2 greens. Maybe the format can be changed a little bit. Like Mike has said, I think there's a lot of money in it. Our club did really well on the last Canadians, and it really boosted our bottom line and helped us do a lot of stuff to the club that we've been trying to do. But again, Mike pointed it out, volunteer burnout, the use of the greens, those social members that you rely on so much to boost your club, they don't want to give up the greens for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long it is that you need to prepare the greens and keep them safe and do all the kind of stuff to host the Canadians. It's tough. I really don't know where you go from here.
I think it's a pretty tough one. Like you said, volunteer burnout's got to be one of the biggest things. We've noticed that in a lot of topics we've talked about on the podcast over the past, is because our sport isn't run as a business. It's run as more of a volunteer activity. I think it'd be interesting. I know it's never going to happen because the money's not there, but if Bowls Canada had employees or people that were employed to facilitate the events, that way it would be able to take stress off of the volunteers that are just at the club. I guess a way you could do it is you could hire people from the province of the hosted thing and pay them something to at least make them want to go out and do it, as opposed to the volunteers from the club. But again, I'm not sure how well that would work.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, Luke. Like, having someone paid to potentially work on it is not a bad idea. I think logistically, you're saying you might have to do it as a person from the province to kind of get them to want to go out and do it. I guess the one thing we didn't really touch on so far is I think the pandemic is probably paying a bit of an issue into why they're having problems getting clubs at this point. Because if I'm going to give you an example, my club, Regina, typically we would hover around 120, 130 members is kind of a normal year. We're at 70 this year. So we've dropped 50 members in a 1-year span. We have like our B Cubed League, which is great, but those are all just social members, people who aren't really around the club consistently other than that 1 day a week. So when you have a drop off of, say, 50 members and a lot of people who aren't bowling this year because of all the restrictions, everything that's going on, we don't really know what's kind of happening with those people. So I think to commit to have a nationals when maybe 25% of your membership, say, isn't committed at this point or wanting to bowl right now, I think that's a huge problem for any club that would want to host the Nationals, because that's a big volunteer base, big part of your membership gone and not able to help out.
The only other kind of half solution that I think might be like viable in the space is if, like, obviously the Heritage Lawn Bowling Club is very progressive in hosting and doing a lot of things. Is there not a possible way that they could almost do it how they run the Australian Open, not in the sense of format, but how it's at one place for an extended period of time? I know that would kind of like take the traveling aspect out of it, and it would suck for people who don't live here in Ontario. I get that. But if that club's willing to host all these events, why wouldn't Bowls Canada just be like, hey, we're going to partner with the Heritage Lawn Bowling Club for 5 years, and all of our Canadian championships are going to be there for 5 years, and then you don't have to worry about it. And then after the 5 years, if nobody else wants it for the next 5 years, then they could do it again or whatever. I think that could potentially work.
That's always a tough one. They have that rotational schedule for a reason. If I don't know if it's up on the Bowls Canada website, I haven't checked, but
it used to be.
Yeah, you used to have, like, okay, every year you have the Canadian champions played, and it'll list which province is supposed to hold it, and then mixed pairs, seniors, all the ones are listed, and then what province should have it in those years. It's always an issue, and I find this with lawn bowls a lot. It's always an issue of trying to spread it out and get everybody involved. Spread the benefit out. And I understand that. But I have a feeling that there's going to be provinces out there that simply can't or won't host because A, they have limited amount of clubs. B, they have limited amount of members. Some provinces have less members than clubs than one club in, say, Ontario or Saskatchewan does. Partnering with a club and doing it for an extended period of time sounds interesting. I don't know how that would work, and if people would get really uptight or upset if, say, let's go to BC for 5 years. Are people in Nova Scotia really going to want to travel out to BC every year for 5 years?
No offense to the Nova Scotians out there, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. When is the last time that Nova Scotia's hosted a national championship in majors?
Like 2012, I think.
So I mean, they're obviously passing on their rotations anyways for whatever reason. So it's not like for them in general it would make that much of a difference.
Yeah, the regionality.
Again, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying, like, if provinces aren't hosting it, then I don't know.
Yeah, like the regionality of Canada is a pretty big problem. We are the second biggest country in the world, so it's pretty difficult logistics-wise for pretty much what Daryl said, for someone in BC to fly all the way to Nova Scotia. You're looking at probably $800 round-trip ticket type of a thing, when it's, again, vice versa. If you're coming from the east going all the way to the west, if you held it in one spot for 5 straight years, I think you're going to have a lot of problems. From some of the provinces are going to get a lot of flack about that. The idea that you kind of touch on it, Luke, I think that's something that might and should be entertained, I think, is kind of switching to more of a regional tournament for 1 year. So say if you selected Calgary as the host city, have the event in Calgary, because Calgary, I know, has 3-4 different clubs within that city. So if you picked Calgary, and you could have the Parables event at the Bow River Club, you could have the majors at the Calgary Lawn Bowling Club, and you could have the singles at Rotary Park. Like, if it's something that they can kind of coordinate between the 2-3 clubs, if you get a city or a regional area like Kitchener, Waterloo, if we called it Southern Ontario, I don't know what you want to call that area, but you can kind of do regional events. I think that's something that could be entertained. Like Saskatchewan, theoretically, I think we could even do Saskatoon as an example, where the 2 clubs in Saskatoon have 4 greens between the 2 clubs, you can maybe make something like that work. And like me playing all across Canada with all the different nationals I've been to, I can think of probably about 5 or 6 cities off of the top of my head that could probably do something along those lines, or I guess areas that could do something along those lines. And that's something that I wonder if Bulls Canada should maybe try and steer towards, because realistically, it might be something that needs to happen to sort of facilitate smaller clubs maybe taking that step and trying to host nationals.
Yeah, I guess it's a thought. I mean, there's obviously other events in the world that are hosted like that, like including like World Bowls, Commonwealth Games. Sorry, I don't know about Commonwealth Games, but like World Bowls and some of the other World Bowl sanctioned events are held at however many different clubs. You don't just play at one. There's a host, then there's some hubs around it. I think it's a good idea, and it might have to come to that down the line if it's too big of a thing for one club.
It's interesting. I think if we're talking about splitting it up amongst in a region, I kind of like that, where I really think like when we hosted in 2019, we did the singles. We could have easily done both, and I think Burlington could have easily done both. I don't remember the justification for splitting it, if Burlington wanted it or not, to do both. But one club could theoretically, if they have 2 greens, do the entire gambit, because they're all layered after another, one after another. It's just a long period of time, a lot of volunteers, and so on and so forth. But I would like to see the idea of like a coordinated hosting committee. I think one of the problems that comes up is, let's say Regina takes it, and it's been 5 years, 8 years since they've hosted the last one. Do they have anybody left who remembers how to run it? Do they have anybody who has the contacts for doing all the various things, the food, the transportation, the accommodation? And you're starting from a really low point, trying to build that back up to say, okay, now we've got all the expertise. We know how to do transportation and accommodation and all these things. It just doesn't come around fast enough, and you have people drop off that have all this experience. I know at Heritage, we learned so much, and to be able to do it again would be so much easier this time around, because we have the contacts. We know how we did it. We know where we went wrong just a year ago. If we do it within the next 2 to 3 years, it'll be so much easier, so much better. And I think that's some of the stuff that we're missing, where if we have that regional and do all of them, everybody can learn. You'll get a huge group of people that will understand how to run a major event, and people just to get to experience it from all over that area. I think it's a huge benefit.
Yeah, I think that's good, but I think the only issue, in my opinion, is the idea isn't, like we said before, it isn't to be hosted at the same clubs all the time. The idea is for it to move around. But I think the solution to that is something that I spoke about earlier, is Bulls Canada having employees to do the job. Like, I mean, if Bulls Canada hires Mike Batuli for the Canadian Championship Committee, and Mike's job is to, for where, say it's being hosted in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, his job is to find the food, find the transportation, find the hotels, and find all this, then the club doesn't have to know how to do anything. They just have to have the clubhouse and the green. That's it. And that would take a lot of legwork and stress off of the club. And I think that could make it easier. And I mean, like Bulls Canada has employees, and I'm sure they're busy, but they also have summer interns and summer students that work for them. It wouldn't be, again, I don't know what they do, but in my opinion, it wouldn't be that difficult for them to figure out some logistics for a national championship.
Yeah, like that's actually a good point. I didn't think about it from that kind of a perspective, essentially having a national championships coordinator or something along those lines, where pretty much, as you're saying, take away 75% of that legwork, maybe have a person who's paid by the national organization. I just don't know if Bulls Canada would necessarily want to take that step, just because it adds another, I guess, complicated role to their purview. And would a club really want them kind of, I guess, meddling in their hosting of the event that much? I don't know. I agree with you in the end, Luke. I just know that you might get that one club that would be like, oh, we can do it ourselves, because Daryl, as Daryl's saying, we hosted it 5 years ago and we figured it all out, and Bulls Canada is going the wrong way. Like,
well, and I get that, but if the clubs aren't paying any money for that stuff and they don't have to figure it out, then I don't see an issue. And it's just like what I said before, like if it's going to be run the way it should be run, then the same club shouldn't be hosting it every 2 or 3 years or every 5 years or whatever, because how many clubs are in Ontario? Like, yeah, Heritage is great, but should they really be hosting the Canadian Championships every single time? Maybe in today's the way it works now, but I think it'd be nicer if it got split out. Like we said, the clubs are making money. What if the Campbellford Lawn Bowling Club was trying to make some money? So they're like, yeah, screw it. We heard it on the Canadian Bowler podcast. Let's try and host the Canadian Championships and make some money so we can upgrade our club. And then I think that'd be a good way for clubs to like help themselves out. Like Daryl was saying, they made enough money to do upgrades to the clubhouse. So I think it's almost detrimental to be having the same clubs run it over and over again in that sense of it. But again, I can see why, and I said it before, why it would be good to have it in the same place. But at the same time, I think it shouldn't be.
It's fair. Let me put this out there for you guys. So for Heritage, being the most recent, we just did the singles, and we saw a ton of advantages. Like we finally got Wi-Fi and a really good internet package going to the club, which was something we've been asking for forever. Got new greens rollers, which was something that we really, really needed. We were able to upgrade a whole bunch of stuff and fix things and do that kind of stuff to the club, which we've been kind of humming and hawing about and whether we can afford it. If we did it again, we'd probably make more money, is what I'm thinking. Because we'd be able to trim the costs. We'd know, okay, maybe we did too much food, or we did too much merchandise and we didn't sell it all, or whatever it is. Make more money now. And I know, let's say, I'll just talk about Heritage because I know it and it's my club. We're desperate to get a new clubhouse. If we're able to host more and we're able to say, do it multiple years and work with the city and say, look, we're doing all this stuff, we're bringing people to the city, we're generating funds, we're self-sufficient, we're not relying on the city to fix our fence and fix our this and do whatever. We need help with a new clubhouse. Will the city help us with a new clubhouse? And that, I think, would be the ultimate goal if we could do it multiple times, is let's get out of this crappy clubhouse that we're in. We've got beautiful greens, a great setting. Why are we in this crappy clubhouse? If we had a great clubhouse, like a senior center or something really nice to really support the community and do that, I think we'd be happy to host as many Canadians as we can just to get that final big goal.
Yeah, sure, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea to sort of phrase it, because like I know background logistics wise, like if you host a Canadian majors, you're probably set to make $15,000 to $20,000 in profit is kind of an amount that I could throw out there if you run the event well. And if Daryl's saying you host 2-3 in a row, maybe you get a couple grants from your province, depending on which province you're in. It can add up, and it can be sort of a leverage type of thing where you can say to the city, we've had this event 3 times in 10 years, bringing in X hundred people. It's like Daryl's definitely got a point. And if it's a club sort of working towards maybe a major improvement, like a new clubhouse, they need a new deck, whatever it might be, I think it definitely is. That is a very valid point that Daryl's making, where you can sort of use as leverage. Interesting topic.
It's another one of those ones where I don't want to be that asshole, but I think I have to be that asshole. Just because I don't want to, like, I don't even know how to say it the right way, but let's get back to what we're talking about in the first place. We're talking about how we can make the Canadian Championship sustainable, make more clubs host it. I don't think, in my opinion, the Canadian Championships is about Heritage Greens getting a new clubhouse.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, yes, it's a great goal and a great idea, but how long are they willing to wait for it? I don't think it's worth having the Canadian Championships there 10 years in a row just so they can build a clubhouse.
No,
Because how many other clubs could host it for 10 years and get a new clubhouse?
No, exactly. And it's I think what we need to point out here is yes, there's a lot of pitfalls, so you need people to run it. And like Mike said in the beginning, you're relying on probably those core 10 to 20 people that do pretty much everything in your club, from greens to maintenance to running tournaments, all that kind of stuff, to actually do the Canadians. Do you have enough people to do it? Do you have enough people that want to do it? I think the benefits outweigh the cost. So you're giving up your green time, you're giving up your volunteers, and you're putting them to work to do a bunch of stuff. But for those clubs that are looking to engage their community, find ways to make money, find ways to promote the sport, I still truly believe that the Canadian Championships offers that if you do it correctly.
Well, it's like you said, like, again, with the goal that you have in mind with the new clubhouse, you guys obviously believe you could make enough money to do that. And like Mike said, there's lots of money out there if you run it the right way. Yeah. So there's no reason why any club couldn't do that.
No, exactly. And I'm not talking just about
I know
my club, but any club out there that's looking at it, if you run it correctly. And I think one of the problems is not enough people share information. Like from one Canadian to the next Canadian to the next Canadian, it almost seems like it's just a vacuum around the club saying, okay, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, here's our costs, here's our everything.
But don't tell anybody.
It's hard to get that information. I know I reached out to, because I think Regina did it before us, I reached out to the hosting committee and said, hey, do you have information on what it cost you to do this? How did you run your transportation? How did you coordinate everybody coming in and out? And it was a huge help. It got us like way off to a great start, but not enough of that happens, I don't think.
Yeah, no, very good point, Daryl. I think that that's one of the problems that definitely plagues trying to get people to host is you really don't have any idea what you need to do. You don't know that long laundry list of everything that has to get done. So it is something that I think maybe Bulls Canada could be a little more organized, help the clubs out, maybe facilitate some of that contact between different committee to different committee, sort of hook them up with emails or whoever they need to speak with that hosted 2 years ago or the year before would definitely be helpful to sort of get you off in that right direction. And maybe even in combo with Luke's idea of that employee kind of things like that, or something that might need to be incorporated down the line here to sort of help new clubs or get different people hosting the events.
Definitely a lot of great ideas, I think, on this topic. I think this could be a topic for an After Dark show with some more people outside of us.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to hear some opinions from different provinces, maybe people that are like higher ups in clubs or presidents or whatever. But another thing that I wanted to ask you guys about today, and it could obviously go hand in hand with the Canadian Championships, is live streaming at events. Do you think it's important? What do you think we could do to make them better? What do you think we could do to have more of them? What do you guys think about that?
I think it's important to have. We don't have any other mode of putting our sport out there. TV is not picking it up, at least in Canada. Not outside of some regional. Like you may get your local access TV station coming down and throwing it up, but realistically, how many eyeballs are you getting from that? I think it's a huge opportunity. If you can get your viewership up, it might be an opportunity to get some sponsors as well, saying, hey, look, we've got 100, 200, 300 people watching this every single time we throw it up. Maybe you can generate some money from there. And a stream, I mean, you can throw one up for really cheap, couple cameras, get a laptop and stream it. I think for a really good stream, the problem is the investment that either clubs have to make or provinces have to make to actually set up that streaming equipment. I think that's the barrier. People just don't know what they're doing and how to do it. And only a few ingenious people from around the different provinces are actually doing it. Whether it's good or bad or otherwise, that's up to debate.
I'm just gonna say I think that a bad stream is better than no stream. If you guys didn't see it, it's on our YouTube page, but we did some coverage at the Phoenix Bowls Championship.
Is that a bad stream?
I think it was okay. Yeah. I think actually the stream that was live was great, but you seen how many issues we ran into, Daryl, and that's coming from two people who know how to live stream and who have done it before. Having wireless cameras is an issue. Having wireless and shitty internet is an issue. All those things combined makes it difficult to just be super high end. But even with that stream, how many viewers did we get in one day? Like 1,000?
Yeah.
And it are those numbers incredible? No, but for lawn bowling, they're pretty good. And that was a pretty low budget thrown together stream.
Yeah, I would agree with Luke. Any sort of eyeballs on the event is important to get. And going forward, I think kind of with the digital age that we're in, you have to really embrace live streaming or any sort of technological takes that an event might need. It's, as you're saying, not terribly expensive or terribly difficult to throw up a couple cameras and get the internet in place to do it. But even with technological people like you guys are, it is a problematic venture sometimes to do streaming. You sometimes can run into weather issues. You can run into just general club size. Like example, Regina, we had troubles with our streaming because we have a 4-green facility, and the way that our facility is set up, we have to have the modem inside the clubhouse, obviously, and then for it to reach for our second camera, like it was an easy setup for us, just the way that our clubhouse is set up. So I know streaming is hard to get going, but I think it's something that's kind of a necessary component to any event. That's something that I think there are companies out there that you can consult with, get consultations about streaming and what you would need to sort of move it along or have it be facilitated in your area. I think it's also something that there could be easy dialogue between host committee to host committee, because example, Regina Club, if we hosted it and Kitchener is hosting it the next year, they can send us a message and we'd be able to probably definitely give them some information. So I'm thinking going down the line, like we've kind of brought this up twice now, maybe something when you're hosting Canadians in the future, have a person or the committee from the previous year be involved in like kind of the initial planning process or the first couple meetings of that next hosting committee might be a helpful thing to have, because they would bring that knowledge, that know-how, be able to maybe pass on that information and then sort of help you with sort of planning that initial, let's get the streaming together, let's get the cameras, quotes from businesses, whatever it might be. It's definitely an idea I think that people might need to kind of work into their planning down the line.
We just actually got a comment from Raymond N24. I think I'll actually take a crack at answering this question. It says, ballpark figure how much for streaming equipment. Really, it doesn't have to cost any money. On one end, you could use a cell phone and stream it directly to Facebook with spending $0 extra because everybody has a camera phone these days. At the other end of the spectrum, sort of the stuff that we've looked into for a medium to high end setup, you're looking anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000 for cameras, computers, cables, microphones, anything else, the headphones, whatever else you'd need. And that's not, you could even go on beyond that. You could go up into the tens of thousands of dollars if you had the money and you wanted boom cameras and cable cameras and the best internet you could have at the time and platforms for cameras and all this stuff. There's obviously, it's limitless amounts of money. I think for the best quality we need, I think that $2,000 to $5,000 mark is probably about the cap that a lawn bowling club needs. But at the same time, like we said, any stream is better than no stream. You can use a phone and do it for free.
Yep, exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head. There's really cheap options. I mean, you could grab a couple cell phones and a couple really cheap tripods off of Amazon, set them up, and stream away with a couple connections here and there. I know that's what some places did early on. You could buy something that would help you with the shaky cam issues, like a gimbal. So it's basically a handheld thing that if you move, it actually helps smooth that out so you're not shaking all over the place.
It's essentially a stabilizer.
Yeah, basically. And basically you shoot your camera or your cell phone in there and you walk around with it and it's nice and smooth. It just makes it a more pleasant viewing experience than someone shaky camming the head. You're trying to figure out who's there. So there's a lot of options where you can just kind of bump up the quality a little bit. But like Luke said, for our purposes on this channel, we're trying to build up some streaming equipment so we can actually make it a fairly nice, not super high end, not super low, but somewhere in the middle, a good quality stream that people will enjoy. But yeah, it's difficult. There's so many little bits and pieces that are out of our control that you never know what's going to happen.
I mean, our goal as Canadian Bowler as a whole, and especially mine and Daryl's, is to be able to stream well and be able to go to clubs and help them stream events. Obviously, it's not going to happen because we don't have capital. If you want to sponsor us, there's emails down there. Now I'm just playing around, but that's kind of the idea we're going to, and I guess that could help other smaller clubs in that space if we're able to do that one day.
Yeah, I guess if we're just going to throw that out there, if a club is ever trying to figure out streaming and they do want that help, definitely could send us a message here, because any of the three of us, if you were to individually message us on our social media platforms or even to the Canadian Bowler directly, we do have the knowledge and ability to help you out. So if your club is trying to figure something out and you want maybe some guidance on what's a good camera to use or where can I get this tripod that you're talking about, we definitely can steer you in the right path, because we do have knowledge about how to stream events. We know what it needs to be, I guess, essentially happening, and we can definitely help you out if you do have questions.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to make these things possible is just internet. Good internet. I mean, my phone that's in front of me has a 4K camera on the back. A 4K camera, if you're going to go and buy one from the store, Mike, a 4K video camera is going to cost you like $2,000 or more. You already have your cell phone. There's no reason why you can't use that. It's just going to cost you a buttload in data if you're going to stream it directly from your phone. So if you had a stable Wi-Fi connection, then it's definitely going to help.
Wi-Fi is always the issue. What happened to us in our first venture into streaming was we struggled all morning trying to work that Wi-Fi to get the cameras to work. We actually hardwired our laptop in, which worked perfectly. We had no drop frames. We had everything running nice and smooth. It was the wireless signal that was just hit and miss and all over the place. And what people don't realize is you've got two different signals. You've got upload and download. And a lot of times clubs will get a high download and a really low upload, because really people are just surfing the web, trying to pull stuff in. For stream, you're pushing stuff out. So you need that upload to be substantial or good enough to get all that information out. And that's where clubs really, really struggle.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very fair point, Daryl, because that internet is always a huge problem. And kind of what I said with Regina, we, size-wise of our club, had sort of a similar issue, except ours is more the range of the actual Wi-Fi became problematic for us. We got another comment there in the chat from Raymond again. I still get people say to me, I didn't know there was a lawn bowling club in town. So yes, that's a common issue a lot of clubs definitely get. And I think the publicity, the club being online, embracing that digital side of things is definitely helpful. And if you're streaming from that club and it's something that probably some of the members would be sharing, if their friends pick it up, probably lots of people in town. If Luke's saying those 1,000 eyes seeing our streamed event that we did a couple weeks ago there, it's something where you're going to get your club out there. You're going to get people like, oh, what is this lawn bowling? Let's go try it out. Oh, that's 20 minutes away from me. I'll go check this out. So I think streaming is definitely helpful and will definitely help bring people out for lots of clubs.
Absolutely. And Mike, you were saying the Wi-Fi connection was the problem that you had. That's honestly what happened to us too, because like we said, the laptop and the streaming was fine, but to get our cameras to connect to the laptop, we had to do it wirelessly because we don't have 150-foot phone cables to plug our phones in. So yeah, that was the biggest problem for us. And we've looked at other options of like cellular internet boxes or satellite internet boxes, or there's these things called what are they called, sling boxes or whatever. There's a couple other ones out there, but they're like basically their own hub for things like that. But again, it's expensive. Like those things all cost money. I know a lot of people aren't making money from streaming, so it's pretty hard to justify spending money on it.
Yeah, we're raking it in right now here.
Can you not tell we're all in our office for streaming in our studio when we took the private jet to the studio so we could all be together for this podcast today?
It's a labor of love.
It is.
But yes, we love it. We enjoy it. So although we're not raking in the money at this point, we're putting our money back into it. We're trying to really embrace that, changing the stigmas we see in the game, try to embrace all the technology we can. And as I sort of said earlier, we're willing to answer questions, help people out as much as we can, because we do have a bit of that knowledge base to help you along the lines.
Yeah, we're here to help you. So our goal, our whole vision for this channel, for the Canadian Bowler, is it was to push the discussion. So those hard topics, those weird topics that people either don't want to talk about or are really having a lot of questions about, we want to talk here. But overall, we want to put a spotlight on the sport, promote the sport, and help you guys, whether it's BCB, the province, your club, or just you as an individual with our coaching videos. It's all about us giving back and helping raise the bar for the sport in Canada.
And providing entertainment.
True.
Come on.
We hope you're getting entertained. We hope you're getting something out of this. That's for sure.
I guess we can sort of move on to our next topic. I think we had some results that we wanted to sort of cover there, because I think you guys had PBA out in Ontario last weekend.
Yep.
So there was the PBA event, which occurred at, I think it was Woodstock, had it last week, correct?
That's correct.
That is correct.
And so they held 3 different qualifiers. If anyone's not familiar, PBA is a large event that goes on in Europe every year. So essentially, we play a qualifier here in Canada, and the winners get to go play. There's the Potters event, which is the World Pairs and Singles, and then there's the Scottish Open, which they host in Scotland as well. So I guess if I go into the winners, so for the Potter pairs, we had Gary Pickering and Jeff Harding win. So that was, I guess, two New Zealanders, former New Zealanders,
Yep.
pairing up together and getting their chance over in England. And then we also had Eric win the singles. So that's the Potters singles. So Eric would be going to Potters as well. So Eric's national team member, had him on the podcast here before. So congrats to Eric. And then I believe the Scottish Open was won by Gary Pickering as well. So Gary had 2 events that he won over the weekend. He's been pretty consistent with PBA over the years, and I think he's probably about his 4th or 5th time he's won there. So congrats to Gary and Eric and Jeff.
You know, I think this might actually be the first time we've talked about PBA on the podcast. I think it'd be really cool. I know he actually listens to the show. Chris Bester, he runs the PBA, viewer of the show. Chris, if you're listening and you would like to come on and talk about the PBA, I think that'd be a great episode. The PBA is almost one of those hidden gems in the sport. It's also it's great for people like myself or Mike who have done their time on the national team and don't want to do it anymore, or people who just aren't interested in Bowls Canada for all sorts of funny reasons. If you want to compete internationally, it's a good outlet for stuff like that. It's just basically you win, you get to go, you get to play against some of the best bowlers in the world. So I think it's a great event.
It's interesting. We've had a former winner on the show, Catherine Rednall, on the women's side. There's some great bowlers out there, and you can rub shoulders with them, talk to them, meet them, and really see what it's like to play on some high-end carpet against some high-end competition, and understand what that pressure is like if you've never seen it before. PBA is definitely a good outlet. You know, you play well, you win, you go.
Yeah, I've never been able to play in it. I've considered coming out for years to Ontario, and I remember way back in the day BC used to host it for Canada. So I've very much considered playing in it, want to play in it. It just logistically doesn't make total sense for me to come out to Ontario for 2 or 3 days, or they used to host it on different weekends. So now that it's on the same weekend, it's definitely something I've entertained in the past, and probably in the future here I might give it a shot, because as you say, Luke, me and you no longer on the national team. Maybe we need to team up, try out for those world pairs sometime.
Oh yeah, brother. Can you imagine the damage we would do at Potter's? Oh baby. Yeah, funky looking blue carpet by the time we're done.
Yeah, we would have a lot of fun there on the different
No, but PBA would be a great topic. So yeah, Chris, if you're out there listening, we'd love to have you on the show, talk about PBA, let you give us a lowdown on exactly what happens, what your plans are for the future, because PBA used to, like you said, used to be held in Ontario and BC, or East and West, let's say. That west side kind of fell apart, and now it's just in Ontario. It struggled for a lot of years, and maybe it will start to make its resurgence, but it's one of those options that I wish more people would take a look at, because I think it's definitely a valuable outlet for people to get competition if they're not interested in provincials and Canadians, and they're not interested in beyond the national team. Here's your opportunity.
And even if you are interested in all that stuff, it's just another good spot for high-end bowls. Like the names we've heard of people winning, those are past Canadian champions, pretty good bowlers. I mean, Eric Gallipo, in my opinion, he's probably either the best or one of the best up-and-coming bowlers in the country. You could compete against him and beat him and move on to go play in the Worlds. So, stuff like that's exciting, right? So,
absolutely.
All right, guys. I think it's been about an hour. We made it the whole way. I think it flew by. It's a great show. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come back on the show after my my little hiatus there. So
it was fun.
Thanks for holding the fort down, and it's fun to be back. Everybody watching, don't forget, if you missed the first half, we'll be available on Apple Podcasts, all your major podcast platforms. Mike likes Android podcasts, so check that one out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We know 95% of people who watch our videos are not subscribed, so please hit that button down there. It means a lot. We're still sitting at 849 out of our goal of 1,000 by the end of the year, so we'd much appreciate it if we made it there. If you could hit that little red button, it means a lot. Mike, Daryl, until next time, boys. I hope all your balls are touchers.